Alright guys, we're back. You just watched 3 videos on viruses yesterday, and the next few videos will be on bacteria. And this is just going along with our theme for the week of infectious disease and what types of agents cause infectious disease. We're going to start off with bacteria, sort of like we did with viruses. Just describe some general characteristics of bacteria and identify and describe the function of some common structures of bacteria. And bacteria are very diverse creatures, so we're just trying to focus on the common things right now. First of all, bacteria are living things. These are single-celled living things. That makes them different than the viruses we discussed last night. And most of the time, bacteria is thought of as like a bad thing. They just have negative consequences for people, but that's not really the case. Certainly, bacteria have bad consequences for some people. They cause disease like tuberculosis, Lyme disease. They can infect wounds and so on and so forth. Plaque that builds up on your teeth is basically bacteria, and why pimples and zits get infected is because of bacteria as well. But bacteria also do very good things. They're responsible for making the lactic acid in yogurt. A lot of people like yogurt. And I think most importantly, they live in our gut and they aid in digestion, and we wouldn't be able to digest foods as efficiently if it wasn't for bacteria. A couple other things I think are interesting about bacteria. They actually represent the majority of cells in a human body, and this might seem unbelievable, but bacteria cells in general are a lot smaller than human animal cells. So that's why we have much more bacteria in our body. They make up about roughly 10% of the mass of our body. So I might weigh 160 pounds now. That means I'm carrying around about 16 pounds of bacteria. And that's just not me being gross, that's everyone. Also, bacteria in total, they can total about 200 to 2,000 trillion bacteria in each of our bodies, which I think is pretty amazing. So, in a lot of ways, we live in symbiosis with bacteria. We have this close relationship, and we're dependent on bacteria in a lot of ways. And because the bacteria in our bodies are so diverse, there's all sorts of these relationships we can have. Mutualism, parasitism, commensalism. An example of mutualism would be bacteria that help us digest food. They help us digest our food, and then bacteria receive some nutrients from the food that we eat in the process. So everyone benefits with mutualism. Another example is parasitism, and I think this is what most people are familiar with when it comes to bacteria, that bacteria can cause infections and diseases, and the host is harmed from the illness, and those single-celled bacteria are benefited from the process. They get a lot of nutrients, and they get a place to live while they're making us sick. There's also commensalism, and there's probably all sorts of good examples of this. One example I can think of is bacteria that live on our skin and feed off of secretions. We are neither helped nor harmed by these bacteria, but the bacteria are living on our skin and getting nutrients from our skin. So all sorts of ways that we live in symbiosis with bacteria. A couple other things. All cells can be divided into prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are plants, fungi, and animals, and the prokaryotes are bacteria. There are a few important differences, and I don't want to beat this over the head too much. You've had this a lot already this year. But eukaryotes have a nucleus, and the DNA is located inside the nucleus. Prokaryotes don't have a nucleus, so DNA comes in a couple different forms. One is a nucleoid, and this is most of the DNA that a bacteria has. It's just tightly packed in this knot right here. It's kind of a knot of DNA. Also, bacteria have these smaller pieces of DNA, and they're circular, and they're called plasmids. And these are going to be very important in a couple minutes. So here's a slide. It just reviews prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. So you can stop this slide and copy down notes as you please. I'm not going to really go over it much anymore, because we've had it so much in class already. Now on to these bacterial structures. Bacteria are made up of these common structures, and they vary greatly, but you'll see these common structures in most bacteria nonetheless. This is the nucleoid, most of the DNA. Here are the plasmids, these circular pieces of DNA that will be important in a few minutes. Bacteria have 3 layers instead of us having just our cell membrane. Bacteria have 3 of these layers. They have a plasma membrane, which is kind of like our cell membrane on the inside. They have a cell wall, sort of like plants, that provides additional structure and support. And they also have this capsule, and this capsule is very important for the virulence of bacteria, how dangerous bacteria is. And if we go here, let's concentrate on this capsule, on the capsule. It's just a layer on the outside of the bacteria, and this prevents destruction by the immune system, so it protects the bacteria from our body's defenses. It prevents water loss, and it helps bacteria adhere to surfaces as well. And you should stop this right now and copy down the information into your notes, and I'll see you on the next video.